How
we go
have
through.
rehearsals been going?
Oh, no, they're good, hey? We are ready. We're
Okay.
ready. We're not in a rush like last year. Last year, everything was so hectic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, now we are more prepared.
Okay. Are you making this like an annual franchise, coming to the Johannesburg Theatre?
I would love to. I would love to. And so far, so good. We have a wonderful relationship with Joburg Theatre, and hopefully we can maintain it. Because this kind of project is something that I would like to, have tour the world, and tour SA, obviously, because this is home. So even here locally, we are touring it. We're going to Durban next. But this Joburg Theatre is the home of Moya.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How did you arrive at Moya, the title for your show?
I mean, Moya means different things. It means air, it means spirit, it means breath. And all of them are rather intertwined in the meaning, that, brought me into even using the word. I started writing songs after my mom passed. The first song I wrote was Mombatise, which was to, accompany her. So that's a song that I played at her funeral. And I thought that was it. I was just going to go to studio for that because I needed to offload that kind of pain. But after her passing, I kept going back to studio. Partly because I was in a lot of pain, and I needed an outlet.
Yeah, to process the pain.
I needed an outlet, and I just continued to write. And as I was writing, all of this, the music that was coming out is music that she had always wanted me to do. She's like, "You must go back to church, my child. You remember when you used to sing in church, and this would happen and that would happen. I would love to see you do gospel music." And I'm not a gospel artist, and I will never be a gospel artist. But I'm a spiritual being who's born of different forms of spirituality. So what I did in studio is that I put all of those forms of spirituality together to write music that I then realized was music that was to honor my mom, in the way that she would have loved to see me as a musician, in the way that she raised me. And then I really had no intention with the music. I was just it was just an outlet, a healing space for me. And then as these things sometimes tend to happen when the universe conspires in your favor, someone was really insistent that she needs me to do something, and she would fund it. And I normally do not go straight from writing songs in studio to performing them. They have to be produced and this and that, be on an album and all of this. But the way she was insistent, I then felt compelled. Well, no, I have the material, and with an opportunity like this during COVID, I don't want to waste it and do something that I've done before. I want to do something new. And I didn't know that something new would culminate into this kind of project. A project that is a healing circle.
Yeah.
And that calls to the spirit, that's looking for solace. And that's why I ended up calling the project Moya.
I suppose when you speak about solace and spirituality, that's got to be an internal process first, isn't it? Did you find yourself healing through the pain of losing your mom as and when you're working on this a repertoire of music?
Well, I found that throughout the process, I would find myself catching my breath less, holding my breath less and less. Because there was that tautness. I was always holding my breath, I would forget to breathe, kind of thing. So I found myself relaxing more and more. I mean, grief is very complex. I completely lost my appetite. I could not eat. I'd go for days without eating, just drinking coffee. That's how, I got to understand that grief, you can think that you're okay, but even physically, grief can affect you. And I don't think that you heal offhand, it's done. I think it's a process, it's a journey. You get to a point where the pain is there, but it doesn't overwhelm you anymore. You can still function. So I wouldn't say that I've found my healing. I'm healing continuously.
You talk about Moya being, it's got this multiplicity of interpretations, but this show is meant to serve as some kind of spiritual, guide for healing and processing grief. There's also references of people processing the trauma around COVID-19 and so on. How do you expect your audience to connect to the show?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned COVID, because I think that was the time that grief was most prevalent across all sectors of society.
The world as well, yes.
So there's a reason why even my project came about that time. Losing my mom around that time as well. It was a very difficult time to process grief, because you couldn't even go to a friend, say, hey, it just happened to me, I'm sad, because they also have got their own sadness. People were losing left, right, and center, losing loved ones, losing income, losing just a huge sense of loss. So you would almost feel guilty, well, anyways, I did, to offload at someone else about your grief, because you know that people are going through a lot. We're hearing every day, this one is gone, literally every day, to a point where we all became numb.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like a lot of us have not really had the opportunity to process their grief. They've had to be stoic, and forge on. And now I was blessed enough that I had this outlet, that is music, that is being creative, to dissect my grief and look at it from all different angles and deal with it. And that process culminated in this album, in this recording, this record. And I feel like it will do the same for others as well. It will help them process that grief. Like when they leave, they'll feel like there's a load that has, come off their shoulders. And that is not to say that they will leave here completely healed, no. That would be quite
but it would
presumptuous.
I know, right? But healing is an intentional process. Wouldn't you say it's something that you channel within yourself and release?
You have to allow yourself that emotion, and that emotion can be overwhelming, because there's a real chance you'll fall apart, and you feel like, I cannot afford to fall apart. There's so much that needs to be done. I cannot, and that's the thing when we don't handle grief well, because even the stoic ones, it's going to overwhelm them at some point, right? And they won't know why they're acting out. They're acting out because of the trauma, of the grief that they experienced. So perhaps, to put it in a different way, it will allow that emotion, but in a controlled environment, perhaps, where it won't overwhelm them. It's going to give them a sense of, okay, this happened to me.
Yeah.
And it was traumatic, and, it's okay for me to feel like this. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, last year we had an amazing show. People were just bawling their eyes out. And I think that's that allowing,
that process,
letting go and allowing, and it being controlled. Like, you are not alone. You are not alone. There are people who feel the same as you, and it's allowed. And when you leave, you feel that sense, okay, I can own my grief. I don't have to avoid it. And it wasn't so bad. I felt better after those tears, after that, I felt better.
And how do you handle it though when you're performing live on stage, but you're also connecting with the music and the audience? How do you keep it all together?
You can't cry and sing.
But I mean,
and it gets very hard.
when you're feeling the emotion,
listen.
you got to be stoic, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want your audience to be.
You cannot sing and cry at the same time. Some things will give.
Yeah.
So it was a tough one last year because there were a lot of emotional moments, a lot throughout the show, and having to say, okay, this is not about you. Hold it. It's about those people out there. Hold it. Sing for them. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And I think there was a time when I literally left the stage for a bit because I couldn't hold back.
Compose, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't get my composure. And then I quickly walked back in again because I'm a professional. But yeah, no, it's that kind of show. It's emotionally charged.
Do you ever get a sense that you are connecting with some of your mom's words about how you need to return to the church, but you feel like you are more of a spiritual being? Does it feel like a ministry that you're offering?
It is a part of who I am. I'm that church girl who used to lead a choir at 12, a church choir. I'm still that person, right? And I still have those feelings that I felt when I led that church, Moya uhle. I'm still that girl, right? It's just that not ideology, there's a different word for it. It's just slightly shifted, with not too much, right? But now I'm embracing other forms of spirituality as well and seeing them as part of my journey, right? And my African identity is at the center of it all.
So tell me about the team that you put together to work with you on this production. How did that come about? Gregory, for instance. And how did you envision his role in the production?
Greg and I, we met in 2000. In 2001. 2001. I'd just been here for a year in Joburg. And we've been creative twins ever since. We've done a number of projects together. Okay. I always say that if I had been a dancer, I would have been Greg. And if he had been a musician, he would have been me. Excuse me. That's how much we get each other. So we've worked on a number of productions together. And, every time I'm doing a big project, I call him. But Moya is the first time, I have to say, that I've worked with him and he was a creative director on my show. It's the first time we've worked like this, where there's a huge input from him outside of just choreographing. So in a way, it's quite a first. And he's such an easy person to work with. Always very calm, always very composed. Even under pressure, he's just calm. I cannot say the same for me. I have my moments, where I panic, especially because everything is on me when it comes to this project. But yeah, he brings me calm. He brings me a lot of calm. And the same goes for Titi as well. Titi I've worked with for maybe 8 years now. As my music director. I've even gone with her, to perform with orchestras in Europe and stuff like that. She really has been my right-hand lady in many ways. How she understands my music, my harmonies. We have a lot of music directors that may not necessarily understand vocals. And African vocals at that, African harmonies and their rhythms vocally. She's one of the very few that understands, because also apparently I write strangely. I don't write my harmonies are strange, etc., etc. My rhythms are strange, so it's hard for me to be understood. And she gets me.
Okay. Cool. Well, all the best with the show.
Thank you.
Any surprise elements that the audience can look forward to?
It's a surprise for a reason.
Okay.
They'll have to be here to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank
all
you
the
so
best
much.
with the show.